This video I dedicate to my good friend Renalyn Soriano. I call her Lynn. That's what she said I can call her. Anyway, I know her for since 2009. So that's 10 years now since I met her in the Philippines. And lately she's been having some issues with her health. So I figured why not? Jump in, surprise, and a good surprise is good for the body. Puts people in a good mood. You change their perspective on life. So that's exactly what I did. Traveling from New York's JFK to Manila in the Philippines for a couple of weeks. Whereupon we did some trips to Polo, a few other places. I'll be putting out those videos. Some are already put out, and we'll be looking at more. So I'm going to talk a bit during the video. So this flight is Manila to New York JFK. The flight time should be 15 hours 35 minutes. The lady would say 15 hours and 5 minutes, but that's not correct. 15 hours 35 minutes. That's the actual flying time. And let's see, he's gonna come in there.
15 hours and 10 minutes, we'll be climbing to 35,000 initially, and as we get lighter, we'll be
He
climbing
said
to
15 hours 10.
41,000 feet as our final altitude. Weather en route, as per the report, we are expecting some light to moderate turbulence around 10 hours of flight, so please keep your seatbelts fastened whenever you're seated. And again, weather and traffic permitting, we should still be able to make our arrival time in JFK of 11:15 in the evening, local time.
Which is true. Plane landed around 11:15, and it left the Philippines. It took off around.
Time in New York is about 12 hours behind from the local time here in Manila. So in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy the 4-star service of Philippine Airlines. Salamat po at mabuhay.
So it took off around 7:40 p.m. Philippine time, which is 7:40 a.m. due to daylight savings time.
First Officer Gian Purisima and Second Officers Erica Antonio and Sid Busalanan. This is your flight purser, Aida Alejandro. Our flying time to New York will be approximately 15 hours and 10 minutes, and we shall be cruising at an assigned altitude of 41,000 feet. We will now be showing you the safety features of this aircraft, the Airbus 350, in accordance with Philippine Civil Aviation regulations. We will be turning off the cabin lights.
Mabuhay! Welcome on board this Philippine Airlines flight. Before we depart, we want to let you know how much we care about your safety. This is inspired by everyone in the country for the safety of everyone in this flight.
Before settling down, be sure all carry-on items are securely stowed in the overhead compartment and small heavy items under the seat in front of you. Let us also ensure that all aisles and exit rows are clear of any items.
Smoking in the airplane is strictly prohibited. This includes the use or charging of e-cigarettes. Iyan pwede.
Also, tampering with, disabling, or destroying laboratory smoke detectors is a serious offense. Please set your mobile and tablet devices to airplane mode. Be sure to store large devices at this time. And also, please switch off all your transmitting portable electronic devices. If your gadget slips between the seats, do not adjust the seat. Please call a cabin crew member for assistance.
Fasten your seatbelt throughout the flight, especially during takeoff and landing.
To fasten your seatbelt, insert the metal end into the buckle until you hear a click. To tighten, pull the loose end of the strap. To release your seatbelt, lift the top of the buckle and pull free end. For business class passengers, to fasten your seatbelt, insert the metal end into the buckle until you hear a click. Then, pull the sash belt and hook it to the buckle. Press the button to unfasten.
Also, please fasten your seatbelt over your blanket so our crew can easily see that you're safely strapped in.
Lipat na, palangga! Should there be a rapid change in cabin pressure, oxygen masks will automatically drop in front of you. When this happens, pull mask firmly towards you to start the flow of oxygen. Place it over your nose and mouth, pull the elastic band for a snug fit, and breathe normally. The oxygen will flow even if the bag is not inflated.
Breathe in, breathe out lang.
Remember to put on your own mask first before assisting others. Keep mask on until you're advised to remove it.
Emergency exits are clearly marked along each side of the cabin. Please locate the nearest exit, which may be behind you. Map markings will guide you to the emergency exits.
In the event of an emergency landing, remove all sharp objects from your body. Wait for instructions to go into this brace position.
In case of a water landing, your life vest can be found under your seat or inside your seat console. To use your life vest, place it over your head. Wrap the belt around your waist and push the end to buckle. Inflate your life vest by pulling down the inflation cord at the bottom or by blowing through the mouth tube. To release air, push pin inwards. Inflate the life vest only outside the aircraft. Your life vest light will automatically switch on once submerged in water.
We've covered almost everything, but before takeoff and landing, please have your seatbelt securely fastened. Your leg rest, foot rest, tray table, and in-seat monitor stowed. Window shade raised, and your seat in an upright position. Daghang salamat!
Now that we're all settled, you can learn more about our in-flight safety procedure from reading the safety card found in the seat pocket in front of you.
Also, please be extra careful when handling hot beverages. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and relax as we're about to take off. We hope you enjoyed this in-flight safety video made by the Filipino, for the Filipino, and for the world.
Mabuhay! From Philippine Airlines, the heart of the Filipino.
So the airplane is getting ready to taxi out. Let me just say, one of Lynn's friends gave me some pastries, and I didn't realize the Philippines has some really great tasting pastries. I mean, nothing like we have here in America, you know. And wow, a box of pastries and a bag with another, and it's like two different things altogether, and they're like six still in the box.
Cabin crew, prepare for takeoff.
Cabin crew takeoff stations.
Listen to those powerful engines like sitting in like rockets going into space. So if you like pastries and you're ever in the Philippines, I suggest you try them out. Now this is the first time I heard of this place, Love Dessert, Lobessert. That's the name of the place. It's in Quezon City, and apparently they sell some of the best. They make some of the best pastries in the Philippines. So if you're ever there, stop by. I'm sure they'll be happy. Maybe I can check in TripAdvisor and see if they're listed there, so I can do a compliment. Well, you're looking at Manila Metro, or Metro Manila at night. I was surprised to read that Manila actually has only about, population of Manila is I think a little over 2 million people. But however, Manila has like one of the most dense population. That's the difference. Compared to New York City, which has maybe a little more than 8.2 million or so, which is a lot of people. And then comes to find out that Manila only has like a little over 2 million people. And I was on the train in Manila. Oh my goodness, the trains here packed. The trains. It was Saturday, and you could barely move on the train. But later on at night, when I took the train, there was room. It was much better. But you wouldn't like to work there, having to work in Manila, going to work on the train. I did do a video, I believe. I'm not sure if no, I don't think I released it as yet, where I was on the train. But this wasn't rush hour, but still, there were lots of people on the train. And when we were going to Antipolo on Saturday, the train, getting a seat, if you can get a seat, is a good thing, because there's so many people waiting to get on the train. We got on, we sat down, the train had problems. was taken out of service. So we had to wait for another train, and then the other train came, and there were so many people on the platform already, we couldn't even get on that train. It was too full. So we had to wait for another train. Then another train came, and we finally got on. So that's life in Manila, traveling on a train. That would need a totally different, completely different video to really appreciate what I'm trying to say here. I mean, I know New York City has its crowded subways and so forth, but you know, during rush hour, they tend to send a number of trains out. So at least you get on and you can go to work, even though it's crowded. Also, another thing too, in Manila, from what I heard, you have to be careful, like with pickpockets. People tend to pickpocket on the train. In New York, I guess it can happen, but I haven't really seen that in the news as a big issue about being pickpocketed. However, they do have an announcement in New York about I think a crowded train is no excuse for sexual harassment or doing things like that. They do have an announcement like that. People who want to be perverts and use that time on a crowded train to grope members of the whatever, opposite sex, same sex, whatever the way it is. But anyway, that happens. That's real. But the pickpocket thing, no, I don't really hear much about that in New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fasten seatbelt sign is now off. For your safety, keep your seatbelt securely fastened and visible whenever you're seated. Be careful when opening the overhead bins, as the items may have moved during takeoff. Avoid congregating in any area of the aircraft, especially near the lavatories. Use the lavatory in your section.
By the way, I have to say the Philippines is a very interesting country, you know. Besides the tourist places you can go to, the resorts or what have you, but the culture, there's so much diversity in the culture. It's not really the same people, you know. If you were to like try and use an analogy, maybe it'd be like how it was with the Native Americans when the Europeans came here, and they encountered people who look similar but have different cultures, different languages, you know, like the Navajo, like the Apache. To Europeans, they probably all look alike, but they have different languages, different culture. Well, that's how the Philippines is, really. When Spain first discovered the Philippines and decided to colonize the Philippines was really, it wasn't a country. It was more like tribal, like different tribes of people, you know, who have similar resemblance, just like how the American natives or American Indians, as they call them, have similar look features, but they have completely different culture, different languages, and so forth. So that's about the best analogy I can give with the Philippines. And it was the Spaniards who came together, making one country by putting it together. Even now in the south, in Mindanao, there's some people there, usually Muslims, who believe that they're not really Filipino. They don't consider themselves citizens of the Philippines, and they believe they should have their own country. You know, I mean, you can argue, debate it, or what have you. But the fact is, it's true that when the Spanish arrived in the Philippines, or what's now known as the Philippines, the Muslims were already there in the southern part of the Philippines. That is true. That's a fact. So they were already there. However, they didn't form a nation. That's the difference. And the way things work is that once you can get out there and say, look, we are a nation, then you can be recognized. But they never did that, apparently. Apparently, they decided to be tribal with their religion. So, this is why, even up to today, the Philippines has a lot of security. Whether you go into take the train, the LTR train, the light train, whether you go into a mall, just about most places you go to, you will see securities. You get the impression it's like a police state when you see so many security personnel and so many guns also, you know. I mean, America has a lot of guns, but you don't really see guns like that, except maybe if you live in certain part of the country where I don't live in America, then you probably see these guns. But in the Philippines, you see a lot of guns, and I think it has a lot to do with some of the
Ladies and
insurgency
gentlemen, we
that's
shall be
been
dimming
going
the cabin
on,
lights prior to landing. If you wish to raise
and
the green light,
nobody
please
has
follow
been
the
able to
service
get rid
button.
of
Thank you.
these people. As they say they were there before the Spanish arrived. They they were there when the Americans came. They were there when Ferdinand Marcos was in power. And Ferdinand Marcos, anybody who knows his record, I mean, people used to disappear at night, you know, if you didn't agree with him or write about him or his policies. They call them, I think it was desperados or something like that, but they used to disappear, like how they had something like in Argentina or something like that, where people would just disappear in the night. And you never hear from them again. That used to go on in the Philippines. So Marcos couldn't even get rid of these people. So Spain couldn't get rid of them, or the Americans couldn't get rid of them. Marcos couldn't get rid of them, and they're still there. And that's their argument. They're still there. So that's why the Philippines has a lot of security. Whether you go into the airport, just to get on that flight, I had to go through 3 different security checkpoints, which seems kind of crazy. You know? And I thought TSA was overdoing it, overkill. But, you know, you go through TSA once, at least at JFK, you go through once and that's it. But in the Philippines, as soon as you enter the building, you go through, there's an X-ray machine there, you put the stuff on. Then when you pass immigration, there's another security point where you put your carry-on stuff on now. The stuff you'll be taking on the plane. And then when you reach your gate where you're going to take your plane, that's another secure sterile area because that one is cordoned off. Even here in the US, they don't even do that. And I think they're doing that because of the TSA requirement. But here in the US, we don't have that. I mean, you go to board, you go to, let's say, gate 10 at JFK. It's not really that once you step into that area, it's not cordon off. That if you step out, that means you have to go through security check again. That's not like it. Once you go through security check through TSA at JFK, you can go to just about any gate in the airport. As far as they're concerned, you went through their check. But that's not how it works in the Philippines. If as far as I know, if you board in this flight, which is Philippine Airlines, Manila to New York, this is non-stop. You have to go through security at the gate, which is the third security checkpoint. So, for those who may be wary or those who can't deal with such stuff, I'm putting it out there so you know. This is what goes on. And I believe that has to do with more like the USA and TSA looking for stuff like liquids and so forth. But my issue with them is that, okay, if you want that to be done in foreign countries, because I had it happen to me in Hong Kong too. In Hong Kong, if you come into the USA, they check your bag for liquid and so forth right at the gate. Then how come here in the US they don't do that at the gate? I think because it would take too much manpower and too much work. So I think it's really unfair that the government, the United States government, is asking these other countries or airlines or what have you, we want you to do this before your plane comes into our airspace. However, we're not going to do it. You know, once you reach the gate or what have you want to throw a pitcher of water and take in the airplane, fine, we don't care. So that's what it comes out as. So the Philippines is a very interesting country. Lots of things to see, places, natural things like waterfalls, beaches, some of the great beaches. Yeah, some years ago I was there, and I think it was Pamelican Island in Bohol region, and I was the only person on the beach. Yeah, imagine having a beach all to yourself. Wow, the only person on the beach, and when I go in the water, you can see the coral so clear. So the Philippines has like wow, you have hundreds and hundreds of islands, many islands. So there's something for everybody, and also a language, many languages, over 100 languages. The three ladies I was with when we were going to Antipolo, they're originally from a place called Pangasinan, and they have a completely different language. And the driver of the Grab vehicle who came to meet us, to take us there, he was surprised when he heard them speaking in Pangasinan because usually you want to hear that, because it's Manila, you will hear more like Tagalog, people speaking that. So they were speaking a language from his
Philippine Airlines
from his
welcomes you to
region.
New York.
So he was
The
really
time is
amused by that.
11:22 in the
You see?
evening.
So
And
what
the
are the
date today
chances?
is September
You see?
22, 2019.
And if you go to a
The
different
ground
region,
temperature is recorded at 22 degrees Celsius or 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the aircraft comes to complete stop and the fasten seatbelt signs are switched off. May we remind you to check areas around you for items you might leave behind. For passengers who need assistance, please deplane last. Our cabin crew and ground staff will be happy to assist you. On behalf of Captain Emil Mangubat and the rest of the crew, thank you for flying Philippine Airlines, the heart of the Filipino and your 4-star national carrier.
yes, so you'll find that when you go to different areas, there are different languages, different dialects, and so forth, and that's very common in the Philippines, and that's what makes it kind of a unique place to visit. And even so, people are still able to adapt and learn languages, and I really admire that because I see some of the videos out there where people from the Philippines go to places like Iceland and they actually learn to speak the language, which is incredible. So they're very versatile when it comes to learning languages, and that's a big plus. And Lynn, I want to say thank you so much, and I hope you get better, because you really deserve to have a good life. You're a very good friend.